We are going to be given some information about a line, and our job is going to be to find the equation for it. Now, most of the time we'll be using what's called the point slope form for the equation of a line. Now, that's a formula that looks like this. Of course, the m, as usual, represents the slope. Typically, that'll be a fraction or whole number. Now, the key to dealing with this is to remember that the x with the 1 and the y with the 1 represent some numbers. Now, the x and the y without numbers on them just remain x's and y's. So in the problem that we have, we're told that 3, -5 is a point on this line. Well, the first number in the ordered pair is the x-coordinate, and the second number is the y-coordinate. So this is what we would call x1 and y1 in our formula. And of course the slope is the m. So we're going to substitute. We leave the y as just a y. For y1 we substitute -5. And for x1 we're going to substitute 3. Now we can simplify these situations after we get everything substituted in properly. The y minus -5 is y plus 5. We can either leave this as is, -2 x minus 3, or we can put it in any number of forms. This particular problem simply says find an equation of the line. And what we have here is indeed an equation of the line. Now, in following what we just got through saying in the previous problem, notice that this time they give us some specific instructions on how to write the answer. Be that as it may, we're still going to begin with our formula. The first point that we have up here we'll call x1 and y1. The second point we'll call x2 and y2. To find the slope, we've got to use the slope formula. Substituting our numbers for that, the y2 is -1 and the y1 is 3. The x2 is 5 and the x1 is -4. Now again, see how we include the sign with the number in addition to having the formula sign. So in the top, -1 minus 3 is -4. 5 plus 4 is +9. So now we're prepared to put everything in its place. So here's y minus y1, which is 3, -4/9, and x minus x1, which is -4. Now we'll begin by taking care of this minus problem. And of course that would be an x plus 4. 2 minuses make a plus. Now the problem with this is they want specifically standard form. Standard form means we've got some number times x plus some number times y equals some number, where all of these numbers are integer values, as in no fractions. Well, just like we saw way back in the beginning, we can take care of any situation involving fractions by multiplying both sides by the common denominator. Well, the only denominator in this problem is the 9. So when we multiply this, we get 9y minus 27. Here, when we multiply, the 9's simply cancel, and we get negative 4 times x and negative 4 times 4. And so we need the 4x, negative 4x, to be on the very front. When we move that over to the left, it would become a positive 4x. The 9y, since there's nothing in front of it, is actually a plus 9y. Now we need the 27 to be over on the other side, which means if we add 27 to both sides, negative 16 plus 27 comes out to be an 11. And that is standard form. On this one, we're asked to find the slope and the y-intercept from the standard form of this equation. So what we need to do is to transform the standard form into slope-intercept form, which means solve for y. We'll begin by subtracting 3x from both sides. That's going to disappear, leaving negative 4y by itself. We'll go ahead and write this in the order negative 3x plus 12. Nothing in front of the 12 means there's a plus. Then we need to divide both sides by negative 4. That is going to disappear. When we have a fraction that has 2 terms on top and 1 on bottom, we need to put all of them together, as in these 2 and these 2. The negative 3x divided by negative 4 would be a positive 3/4 x. 12 divided by negative 4 would be minus 3. So the slope is 3/4, the number on the front of the x. And the y-intercept is negative 3, the number at the end. Now they give us this graph, and in looking at this graph, we see that 5 is the y-intercept, and negative 2 is the x-intercept, now the slope, if we go from this bottom point to this point, would be up 5 and to the right 2. Slope up 5 and to the right 2. So now we can write the equation using the slope-intercept form as 5 halves x plus, and the b is the y-intercept. Now this one leaves us a little bit more to do, because as you can see, we're trying to find the equation in both slope-intercept form and standard form. We're going to come up with 2 answers. And we're also kind of given some information in disguise, because we know the line we're looking for is parallel to this one. So what we'll do, we'll start off with the equation of this line and solve for y so that we can figure out what its slope is. So by subtracting 3x from both sides, and dividing by negative 2, we find the slope of this line to be a 3/2. Now the line we're looking for is parallel to that, which means its slope is also 3/2. Parallel lines have the same slope. And so here is our x1 and y1. Here's the m. Our equation that we've been using goes y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And so we fill that in. The y1 is -4. M is 3/2. And x1 is 2. So we'll go ahead and do a little bit of simplifying, as in right here, we'll put the two minuses together. And like we did earlier, we'll eliminate the fraction by multiplying both sides by a 2. So on the left, that would be a 2y plus 8. And on the right, the 2's will disappear, leaving 3 times x minus 2, which we'll go ahead and multiply out. So we're awful close to the standard form. So let's go ahead and put this in standard form. So to get it in standard form, we will move the 2y over here, and we'll move the 6 over there. So when we move the 2y from the left to the right, it becomes a minus 2y. When we move the -6 from the right to the left, it becomes a plus 6, which would make 8 plus 6, or 14. So there's standard form. Well, technically speaking, standard form would be 3x minus 2y equals 14. Just swap sides with everything. However, to get this into the slope-intercept form, we need to solve for the y like we did earlier. If we take this equation and subtract 8 from both sides, we get the 2y and 3x, and -6 and -8 is -14. Then if we divide by 2, we get 3/2 x and 7. So there are both forms for that equation. When you look at this problem, it looks a lot like the one that we just did, except for one word. However, we still need to do what we did before. We need to take this line, which is the same as the problem we just did, and find the slope by solving for y. Now, since I just did that on the previous slide, I'll just write that down. The slope was 3/2. But this time, the line we're looking for is perpendicular to that. Now, a perpendicular line is going to have a slope that is just the reciprocal of this, which would make the 2 on top and the 3 on bottom. And it would be the opposite sign. This is positive, so this one would be negative. So there's the slope. Here's the x1 and the y1. And we can substitute those into our slope-intercept form. And it would look like this. So again, changing the two minuses to a plus. Multiplying both sides by 3. we have 3y plus 12 and negative 2x plus 4. Moving the 2x to the other side, we have positive 2x, positive 3y, moving the 12 to the right, making it minus 12. 4 minus 12 would be negative 8. So there's the standard form. We can get the slope-intercept form by taking this one and subtracting 2x from both sides and dividing by 3. In this last example, I want to show you about using your graphing calculator for solving equations. Here's what we're going to do, and then I'll show it to you on the calculator. We're going to take the left-hand side and type it for y1. We're going to take the right-hand side and type it for y2. So let me take out my calculator and we'll see what it looks like. Starting with the y equals key, we want to type the left-hand side. Don't forget, use the negative sign below the 3 and not the minus sign over below the times key. And so here is the left-hand side. And we press enter and then type the right-hand side. Now we don't know about the window settings, so we'll start with zoom number 6 to get a standard graphing window. Now I'm pretty sure, since this is on the chapter on linear equations, that these are going to be straight lines. And so when we draw our graph, we should see 2 straight lines. Now we only see one, so we're going to have to do some work to come up with both graphs. Now I'm looking at the right side of the equation, which is y2 on ours, and I see the plus 38, which tells me it has a y-intercept of 38. And so I'm going to go to the window setting, change the y max to something larger than 38. How about we try 40 and draw that graph. Now if all goes well, I should see 2 graphs, and we're looking for their intersection. On my calculator, I'm going to go second, calc, that's up above the trace key, and sure enough, number 5 is intersect. Now the way you use that, I'll explain someday what the questions mean, but you want to put the cursor, using the left and right arrow keys, close to where the 2 lines cross. Now it doesn't have to be perfect, just get close, and press enter 3 times. And what you see beside the X is the answer. So we just solved that equation, and we've got X equals negative 4.